So I came over to drop some parts off while we were building the barn on Wednesday night and walked out to the plot here to take a look at things and noticed that the top of my pasture was starting to turn colors. Kind of had a orangish brown tinge to it. And couldn't figure out what was going on. Started thinking about stuff and remembered, oh yeah, my neighbor, I saw him spraying the farm that wraps around me. He was up on the north side on Tuesday morning when the wind was blowing out of the south. But I thought to myself, no way in hell would he come around the south side of the field and spray next to me because, well, number one, I have this pasture in here, and number two, I have soybeans wrapped around the border of this farm up next to the fence the whole way around. But as I started looking at things and thinking about what happened, I decided to give him a call and see what he had to say. And what he told me was as follows. So I was worried about wind noise, so I thought it'd be easier just to hop in the pickup here and tell the rest of the story. So I called my neighbor and I said, hey, I've got my field here and it's starting to turn colors. Did you spray around me on Tuesday? Yeah, I did. Well, what were you spraying? Halix GT. Oh. Well, did you see my pasture and my bean strips or my soybeans that were there? Well, we had a man and we put that man on the fence, he said, and we told the man on the fence if you felt drift to wave and then we wouldn't spray it. But he didn't feel any drift, so we went ahead and sprayed. Oh. So you made your spray decision based off of the fact that you had somebody dumb enough that was willing to stand on the fence and be the sensor, and you use somebody of that intelligence willing to stand in the way of herbicide drift to be the guiding light of your herbicide application decision. Cool. Then the guy said, well, if I got you, I'll do whatever it takes to make it right. And, which was a nice thing and a typical thing people say, when things like this happen. But I said to him, you have no idea what I had in plan for this little parcel of land. And I'm too upset right now to take the time to explain it to you because you probably won't understand it anyway. And that was it. So I hung up the phone and I looked up the weather. The winds were blowing 15 miles an hour out of the southwest with gusts of 23 with the local weather stations that are within a few miles of that field at the time that he sprayed it. And, my field or the stock cropper plot now, at least the pasture, has got a brown tinge to it. And, it's just kind of indicative of where we're at, I think, in this business. This idea that we know what the right thing to do is, but if you give, be careful with percentages here, but maybe 6 or 7 guys out of 10, a problem like this of whether to spray or not to spray, 9 times out of 10 they make the wrong call and they just do what's in their own interest. And it's a big problem in this business. And I'm getting tired of it. I've been in this business for 15 years and I've dealt with it my entire career. And, the thing I need to say as a disclaimer, there are a lot of really good people in agriculture. There's a lot of people that are conscientious. And just like a lot of things that are happening in our country right now, it just takes a few bad apples to leave a bad taste. But I saw lots of sprayers spraying that afternoon. And I'm in the chemical retail business. And I know the difference of when it's too windy to spray and when it's not. And I know that guy shouldn't have been spraying. He's, 65, 70 years old. He's probably been spraying for 40 or 50 years. He knew it was the wrong thing to do, but he did it anyway because he was in the field. He wanted to check the box. He didn't want to come back to this area of the county, because he's pretty spread out. And he probably looked and saw, well, that's only a 6-acre field. Even if I clip him, what am I going to be out? And it happens all the time. I deal with it every year. I deal with this type of stuff. And I'm sick of it. And it comes down to there's a certain group of folks that just think they operate within this business like they are the most important thing in the world. They are the sole center of the universe. Whatever is happening to them that day trumps anyone else's interests. And, you know, it's the reason that we don't have nice things anymore. You look at what happened this week with dicamba, that court ruling. This is a perfect example of why we don't have this anymore. Or, you know, I don't know what the current status of it is. It's all in limbo. But it's because people don't know how to make the right decision and think about somebody else instead of them, just themselves all the time. You know, and I hope if you're watching this and you're one of these people that doesn't give a shit about your neighbor, and it just doesn't apply to spraying. You know, there's a million different aspects of this business where people get crapped on all the time by somebody else's actions, and then people don't take responsibility for it or change their course in the future to make sure it doesn't happen again. But if you're like my neighbor and you make stupid decisions like this, I hope this commentary gives you a little bit of pause. You know, it probably won't, because it's just, I don't know why, but it probably won't. And for the people that do a good job, I just want you to know how much I appreciate having neighbors that do make an effort and communicate and come back and spray, you know, if the wind isn't in the right direction, so that you don't hurt somebody else. Because this attitude, and it's not just in agriculture, but it's everywhere in our society right now, of me first, everyone else later, it's a problem. You know, and if you want to keep operating like that, that's fine, you know, but it's going to be a pretty damn lonely business in the future if this is what we give a pass to, if this is what we say is, that's just farming. You know, I got a lot of acres to cover. What are you going to do? I guess people are just supposed to say, well, we're expendable. You know, you had a lot going on today, so you needed to spray. You needed to get that done. Yeah. It's possible to manage it well. This isn't a rant about small guys versus big guys. Some of the biggest operations I know are some of the best at communicating and being conscientious of other people. And some of the smallest guys I know are some of the worst, and everything in between. So this has nothing to do with big guy versus little guy. This has to do with, are you an asshole or are you not an asshole? Are you a good neighbor? That's what this is about. I just assume be a good neighbor. I'd like to be surrounded by people that are good neighbors and think about other people. I think at the end of the day, I think we'd be a lot better off as a community, and we'd be looked upon better if we behaved in that fashion. So that's it. That's the end of my rant. I don't know how bad we're hit. I've got a lot of plants that have orange tops. Looks like some of them may be encumbered, some not. I overseeded some seeds a few weeks ago, and they're starting to germinate and come underneath. But we're taking a pause. We pretty much have everything else done on the barn right now. And we're just, we have to wait and see what's going to happen to see if we're even going to have a pasture to put the animals in at this point. But, you know, it really sucks you know, we've worked 5 months almost on this project now, and a lot of hours and a lot of thought. We've spent a lot of money. And, you know, I'm sure my neighbor didn't know that we had that going on, you know, but I shouldn't have had to tell him. I shouldn't have had to say, you know, just because my beans are relatively worthless that were in that field that should have tipped you off, you shouldn't have sprayed that next to me. I shouldn't have had to call him and tell him that, you know. At that age, you kind of know how this shit works, or you should at least. And if you don't, it just shows you don't care. So don't be that guy. That's it.